I want to mention that Sunday marks the 15th anniversary of the attacks of September 11th.
And this morning, we're remembering that day and the time since with some of the people who lived through it.
My name is Lauren Manning, and on the morning of 9/11, I was in the North Tower at 8:46 a.m. when the first plane hit.
I am firefighter John Morabito with Ladder Company 10 of the FDNY, directly across the street from the South Tower of the World Trade Center.
My name is Helena Hovitz, and on 9/11, I was in middle school a few blocks away from the World Trade Center.
My name is Jamie Gartenberg-Piola.
And my name is Nicole Gartenberg-Piola, and we lost our dad on 9/11.
I was heading to my office where I was a managing director and partner at Cantor Fitzgerald. A wall of fire exploded outside of an elevator bank, filling probably half the lobby on the north side. I was engulfed in the flames.
There was debris falling from the tower. It was pitch black outside because the smoke had blocked out the sunlight.
A teacher knocked on the door and whispered something in our teacher's ear, and he came back to the front of the class and he said, "They've bombed the World Trade Center."
I was 2 years old when I lost my dad.
I was not born yet.
I mainly just remember my dad from pictures and videos that I have of him and with him from when he was alive.
People started screaming and running and saying, "Run for your life. Don't look, just run." And so we started to run, and what was happening was the tower was collapsing.
I was actually in the building when the lights went out, and then the building collapsed. You know, I was screaming and praying and saying my prayers. I laid on the floor and I really just waited for the beam to hit me, waited for whatever was going to crush me to crush me.
I opened the staircase door, and my grandma was there, standing in the door of her apartment on the phone, and she started screaming, "She's alive, she's alive, she's here." Because up until that point, everyone thought I was dead.
That was the beginning of my battle that day, which would continue on for many months more. 3 months in the ICU, a few months in a coma, and then 3 more months in a rehab hospital.
A lot of the time, something small will happen or we'll be somewhere and my mom or whoever I'm with will bring up that he used to have a certain quirk, that something we did reminded them of him, or we'll be somewhere that he loved, just so we feel like we could know him better.
You know, a lot of the time teenagers who have been through trauma will act out their trauma, and that's when I started drinking. You know, I ended up in the hospital for alcohol poisoning 4 times before I graduated college.
Like many, many firefighters that did go down to the Trade Center, that dug afterwards, that spent many, many months there, I've come down with some ailments that prevent me from fighting fires. In 2012, the New York City Fire Department retired me with a disability pension.
The last piece of the puzzle was getting sober and, you know, being in recovery. I was finally able to sort of not only put myself back together again, and I started to learn to look for the good in the world instead of the bad, and that's what led me to this career in journalism. I also co-founded a site dedicated to positive stories and inspiring stories about people working to help social issues. It's called Headlines for the Hopeful.
I have a small startup company. When we get situated, I have 1 of 2 locations in mind, perhaps a spot in the new World Trade Center. To my mind, rebuilding on the spot where people try to take so much away from us seems like it might be a good idea.
My firstborn son, unfortunately, right after birth, he had a traumatic brain injury, and he suffers from cerebral palsy, needs constant care. I have 2 other children, typical children, lots of fun, running around, causing mischief, no medical problems whatsoever. I believe that that day God put his hands over me and he protected me. And he said, "Not today. Today's not your time." He protected me, and I survived because it was necessary for me to raise my son, Rocco, to share in the joy and the hardship of raising a child with such a damaging disease. He's a perfect soul.
My mom got remarried, and now Nicole and I have 2 other siblings, and we've become really close, and he'd be happy to see that we have come so far in life.
My message to people is we will all be touched by adversity or wounded at some point in our lives, but we can refuse to be held by it. And I think that's why I survived.
Whatever it is, you just can't give up because there's always, always a hope for a new beginning if we work for it.
15 years later, I think this city is now better than it ever was before. American way is to just never give up. Never give up on your dreams, never give up on your countrymen, never give up on your pride. So we're still in it. We're still in the game.
We've had the chance to get to know some of those people over the years and remember talking to them in the immediate aftermath of all this, and it's still 15 years. First of all, it seems impossible, but it's a morning I think nobody will ever forget, especially when we were broadcasting and covering it here on this show.
It's so important to remember, but also I think to see those journeys that people go on, because yes, they survived, but what they had to contend with after that is just like unimaginable.
And even now they're still reeling from it.
And they all ended on like a hopeful note, didn't they? I mean, it was so nice to see that at the end.
And to see that, I mean, honestly, to see the tower and that beautiful blue sky again. And I love what Lauren said about, you know, rising again and how fitting it would be to have her new company start there.
And you talk about finding the light. My son's in school today, and it's Patriots Day. And they talk about the heroism that was exemplified here in New York City on 9/11, and they shine that light and try and find those positive.
That's nice that you said that, Carson, because I remember we all talked about the darkness of that day, and yet in that darkness we met so many people who shined a light and inspired us in really tough times.
We should mention, by the way, Lauren Manning and Helena Hovitz both have books out, and they share more of their stories. So if you want to learn more about them, you can do that. Just go to our website, today.com.
Hello, Today fans. Thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking that button down there and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives.